Be ready for change, be adaptable, don't take it personal. Try to find a way to add value and help your team add value as the environment changes. Pursuit of perfection and trying to overmanage the outcome is something that has always been told to me of like, it doesn't always have to be perfect. Don't let great to be the enemy of really good. And I think that's something that I've tried to become better with because, growing up, I've always been a bit of a perfectionist, if you will. And I think, as a creative, a lot of people as creatives are also really committed to their vision and want to see things the way exactly they want it to see. But I'm realizing, as I get further in my career, it's not about baking the cake fully myself. It's getting the idea together and allowing other people to come in and support and bring it to that great element. Within the competition landscape of Formula One, I try to focus as much as I can on other industries. I've always found that having a learning diet that lives outside of the industry you work in always gives you inspiration for understanding how things are changing and evolving in other industries that may be first, that may be different, and then you can kind of pull themes over. So I think paying attention to that is one of the things that I always try to focus on. Versus in competitive sports and in competitive landscapes, oftentimes you're looking, especially in F1, when you're paying attention to your competitors and how they're improving step by step, sometimes that myopic view can kind of prevent an ability to disrupt and change yourself. It's pretty much what you're consuming on a daily basis to keep your creativity, to inspire you, to also just have you understand what's happening around the world and in your environment so that you can bring those elements into your workplace. So for me, it's, a combination of what book am I reading that month? What newsletters am I consuming on a weekly basis? What podcasts am I consuming on a daily basis? And then how am I always being open to new sources of information and creating the time and space to do that? And also making sure I'm in the right mind frame for that, right? Because throughout your day, as soon as your day starts, you get going, it's much harder to be open and creative to new ideas. So you have to really carve this moment out. So for me, tying it to my morning routine when I wake up and before I dive into work, it's like I'm going to spend at least 20 minutes listening to a podcast or reading a couple newsletters to understand what's happening in my industry, understand what's happening in the world, understand what's happening in financial markets. Even though it may not impact my work, it helps me to have a more well-rounded point of view on how things are moving, and you never know when it comes back up later. And I encourage my team. It's one of the things I actually interview for, right? When I'm, having an interview for team members and candidates is, what is your learning diet? Whether you're coming right out of college and you've now got into the world and you're ready to learn everything versus someone who's 20 years in their career and you're an expert in what you do, but how do you evolve as a leader or evolve as a talent and make sure that you're not just relying on what you know, but you're always staying curious and open to what else is coming so that you can find a way to include that in your work. Whatever you have in your mind as a vision of what you think you need to do and accomplish can change at any minute. Any minute's aggressive. It can change week by week, day by day. And the reason I say that is because the sports world moves really fast and it's constantly changing because sports is now really becoming that media engine and entertainment engine in a very different way than it was a few years ago. But as long as the trust and the foundation of culture is stable, it allows for people to be excited about that change coming forth versus seeing it as a barrier or seeing it as an opportunity for them to lose their position or lose power or lose the ability to make impact. Especially in a startup environment, we're building everything. The first few months really felt like all it was short-term execution, tactical execution. So that it's making sure you understand what doesn't happen if you don't execute it, prioritizing correctly, and being really ruthless about the prioritization in year one. Learning the power of no and understanding how and when to say no. We all want to do everything in the first year, but the reality is it's not possible, especially if you want to do things effectively. Power of no for me is understanding not what's valuable, but when it's valuable and when it's appropriate, and making sure that a good idea, we don't approach it too soon when we're not built foundationally for it. The 5 questions that we ask ourselves: does this help foster a community within our fandom, the existing fandom that we have? Is it helping them get closer to each other and providing them value? Number 2, is it expanding our audience? not just for the sake of scale, but are we bringing new people into the sport? Are we bringing new demographics into the sport? Are we reducing the barrier to the entry to Formula One and making it more fun and easier to approach? Number three, are we growing the sport collectively? In a few years, can we look back and say that Formula One is a much bigger sport in America, inspiring kids, getting kids involved, giving families something to do, and making it just a passion point in the country? And that decisions that we're making is it laddering up to that? Number four, innovation. Are we coming into this? Is this an idea that is fundamentally going to change the way things are done? And is it going to add a net new value, right? Not change for the sake of change, but change for the sake of helping the sport innovate and leading in that category. And then lastly, cultural relevance. And not for the sake of, does this make us cool, but does this help us become a platform to let other folks in culture that want to tell stories use this as a mechanism to do so, right? Are we allowing ourselves to be that curation platform and that culture platform to allow new stories to be told that keep us at the, let's say, moving at the pace of culture? The ideas still have to be created from a genesis of a human truth, and you need to be human to really understand that. I think AI and those tools that you have will allow you to put your ideas together. Like the creative art of prompt writing has become a new thing, right? Right now we don't think of it as a creative art yet, but it will become one. In the same way that mood boarding became a creative art in the advertising world not too long ago, and it's like putting images together serves as inspiration, which informs creative and so forth. And I think prompt writing and AI tools do that same thing. It will help in articulating their creativity better. And I think that's the way to think about it. We really have this global team, but the investment, the strategy, the engineering, a longer term is going to be, have this American focus. It's American in its ideal and spirit. And I think that's something that is a global export of America, right? It's something that we've been exporting since the inception of time, which is what makes Americans American. It's a question that everyone asks now, and there's so many different polarizing answers to it. But I think one thing that is still unanimous and, very apolitical is that there's a level of unmatched determination, this audacious ambition, this spirit of, trying to build something, trying to be an entrepreneur, trying to innovate, trying to do things at speed has always been a part of the fabric of this country, about the identity of being American. And I think it's why, in the global stage, that's what people actually do still, appreciate about it. And that's something that we wanted to bring to life. We knew we wanted to do this launch at home. We want to do it in the middle of New York City where everyone can get to, and allow everyone to have the opportunity to share some of our biggest moments with us. And I think that's a big focus for us, is bringing people in, making a more approachable team and approachable sport. Now, it's F1, so it's always going to be luxury. It's always going to be premium. We're Cadillac. It's always going to be luxury and premium. But it doesn't mean that we can't make the team and the sport more approachable and more accessible. Is this a good idea? Is this not? How do we start to bring that fan voice into our decision making on a regular basis? Once you start a story, it doesn't need to stay that exact same story forever. We can learn and say, hey, this maybe not be making sense, or our fans are actually not engaging with it as much as we thought, but they're really interested in this narrative with the drivers. They're really interested in this narrative with our partners and sponsors. Let's lean in more there. I think that's the authentic way, because then you're actually building with your fans. And quite frankly, we're the only team that can do that, because we're building from scratch. There hasn't been a brand new team on the grid in over a decade. And a decade ago, social fan participation was in a very different space. So we have this license and this ability to do something no other team has ever done. And that's build a team in front of everyone, with everyone. And I think there's this ability to drive fan participation that we need to really lean into.